Alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking about finally the whole Bob Iger, George Lucas situation. You know, Bob Iger talked a lot about George Lucas, Lucasfilm, Star Wars, and his autobiography that just came out recently. So, and we have some more details that just came out about it today as well. So I'm going to be kind of digging into all of that and giving my thoughts about it. So, this is an article from Bounding to Comics. Shout out to those guys. They do fantastic stuff on their channel. So, let's go ahead and get into this. So, Bob Iger tried to get George Lucas to sign non-disparagement clause. This is just crazy, man. This is crazy. Disney CEO Bob Iger revealed he attempted to get George Lucas to sign a non-disparagement clause concerning Star Wars. In an excerpt from Iger's new book, The Ride of a Lifetime, Lessons Learned from 15 Years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company, courtesy of Reddit user Iger, Iger details that he tried to get George Lucas to sign the clause. Iger begins by discussing how they convinced Lucas to attend the premiere of the movie despite him not wanting to. Even though he had issues with the film, I thought it was important for George to be at the Force Awakens premiere. He didn't want to come at first, but Kathy, with the help of George's now wife, Melody Hobson, convinced him it was the right thing to do. He then details how he tried to convince him to sign a non-disparagement clause. Among the last things we negotiated before the deal was closed was a non-disparagement clause. I asked George to agree that he wouldn't publicly criticize any of the Star Wars films we made. When I brought it up with him, he said, "I'm going to be a big shareholder of the Walt Disney Company. Why would I disparage you or anything you do? You have my trust." I took him at his word. Now, this is really interesting. I kind of have a feeling that this is something that maybe they have most people that are associated with Disney signing. They probably have most people that are in any sort of way associated with Disney signing this kind of same deal where they can't criticize Disney in public. You know, we've seen sort of that situation happen with Mark Hamill, where Mark Hamill has kind of dropped hints that he's not a fan of the direction that Star Wars has gone and all of that type of stuff. But he hasn't really outright said anything about it until fairly recently he started to talk more about it. Now, that's probably because Disney made him sign some sort of public, some sort of deal where he can't publicly criticize the things that Disney is doing. It's also just so tragic that Disney took such a massive crap on Star Wars that George Lucas didn't even want to come to the premiere for Force Awakens. Force Awakens is a continuation of his legacy, and he didn't even want to be involved with it because that's how badly Disney messed with what he has done for his universe. And it's just really, really depressing to hear that. And I feel so bad for George Lucas because he created this universe. He poured his heart and soul into it. He gave everything to create this Star Wars universe, and Disney comes along, buys it from him, basically says, "Yeah, don't worry, you can trust us. We'd love to see your ideas for Star Wars moving forward." And then they just toss it all to the side. Let's see if there's anything else here in this article. Obviously, Lucas did not sign the agreement. He referred to Disney as white slavers in an interview with Variety back in 2015, saying, "I sold them to the white slavers that take these things," and then it goes into other stuff, I'm sure, but we're not going to get into that article for today. As reported by Disney's Star Wars is Dumb, Tom Berg detailed George Lucas's distaste for the Disney sequels in an episode of Toy Run, Star Wars action figure cast. At around the 125 mark of the podcast, Berg discusses a visit to George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch where he states, "I can tell you with 100% accuracy because this came out of George Lucas's mouth. George was not a fan of what they did with the sequel." He adds, "George, as it turns out, he wasn't too keen what they did with the sequel up to this point." Berg continues, "He said he didn't like what they did to the characters that came straight from George Lucas's mouth. Lucas would also backhandedly describe The Force Awakens, saying, "I think the fans are going to love it. It's very much the kind of movie they've been looking for." In a similar manner, he described Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi as beautifully made. Now, this is a very similar situation, once again, to Mark Hamill, where Mark Hamill kind of seems like he's playing both sides of the game. But at the same time, because they're playing both sides of the game, it's very clear that if they didn't have the restrictions of Disney, if they didn't have the shadow of Disney looming over them. All right, my cat just jumped down. He was just chilling on my lap here. So, if they didn't have the shadow of Disney looming over them, then they would probably be a lot more honest with what they are saying. But Disney has so much power. Disney is like, it truly is kind of the empire of Hollywood. I mean, there's no doubts about that. So because of that, they have a lot of power, a lot of influence, and they can pull lots of strings. So with that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think about this whole situation. It's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy, everything that's been happening. And all of the new details we've been getting, Bob Iger basically just throwing away all of George Lucas's ideas for Star Wars moving forward, them wanting to take it instead of more of a, character story focused direction and identity politics, political agenda type of direction. And it's so obvious that this is what's happening. And it really, really does suck. It really does. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And I will talk to you all very soon in another video. Talk to you later. Bye.